This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Stick Tamer Bow Silencers. Are you a traditional archery hunter or shooter? Stick Tamer was specifically designed for the recurve shooter. Made of a hybrid foam rubber material, Stick Tamer is designed to deaden string slap and limb vibration. Stick Tamer reduces limb and string noise, water resistant, and lasts shot after shot. Made in the USA from a hybrid foam rubber for durability. To purchase Stick Tamer and for more information, visit threeriversarchery.com and blackwidowbows.com. Stick Tamer bow silencers are available exclusively at threeriversarchery.com and blackwidowbows.com.
Folks, welcome to another episode of On the Limb podcast with Nature's Voice Game Calls, where deer camp becomes a reality for every listener. Join us as we talk God, family, country, and everything outdoors. Kick back, relax, and have a listen. Now, here's your host and co-host, Mike and Dan.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. We got Dan on here coming in from Arizona. How's it going, Dan?
It's going great. Sun's shining.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful out here.
Boy, you got the good weather out there. We got 6 to 8 inches of snow coming tonight.
Yeah, we got 70s and 80s the rest of the week, so I'm all right with that.
Oh, my goodness.
That sounds terrible.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
I tell you, living that life.
Living the life.
Yeah, buddy.
Was it supposed to snow overnight out there or something?
No, it's going to be beautiful. Mountains ain't even got snow. Where they should have snow, they have none.
Stuff back here, son. Nobody wants to hear it.
I mean, let me just tell you how nice it was out here. I went kayaking the other day out on the river, out on Roosevelt Lake.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. First time ever using a foot pedal kayak. I'll tell you what, that was pretty sweet. I think I might have to invest in one.
What was it, a paddle?
No, foot pedal. So you basically like you're riding a bicycle on the water.
Oh, really?
Yep. So your hands were free. You can fish while you're kind of trolling with it and everything.
Wow, that's cool. I thought you said paddle boarding or something.
Oh, no. No, it was foot pedaled.
Nice.
Foot power pedal. However you want to say it.
Yeah. Well, the NWTF Convention and Grand National Calling Competitions just finished up last weekend, and from what I hear, it was pretty packed. Our guest this evening wanted to go, but he's been too busy. So we'll hear more about his busy time since the beginning of the year here in a little bit. But first,
I've seen so many videos on it. It looked like it was packed, and it looked like a good show this year.
Oh yeah. It's always a good show every year. Attendance keeps going up more and more, and they keep doing different things. So
right.
So this evening we're going to be having our legislative segment, and we'll hear more about that here in just a little bit. But Dan is going to tell us about the West Virginia Fishing, Hunting, and Outdoor Sports Show coming up March 1st and 2nd at Milan Park.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, the West Virginia Fishing, Hunting, and Outdoor Sports Show is March 1st and March 2nd at Milan Park up in Morgantown. It's Saturday. It starts at 9 a.m. and it runs till 7 p.m. And then that Sunday, it'll be at 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's $12 for adults, $5 for kids 6 to 12, and veterans with proof of service. All kids under 6 years old are free. You can listen live to your favorite WVRC.
We just lost both of them. Had a dropped call there. He's probably still talking. Oh, my goodness.
That's great.
Oh, jeez. Let me call him back here.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I don't understand that. This place just sucks for service.
Hey, I'm back on. Sorry, I was getting ready to text you.
Well, I guess we had a drop call there. Let me get Dan back on.
No, it's like I didn't do nothing. I got 4 bars.
Had a drop call right in the middle of the spiel
Yeah,
there.
dude.
All right, hold on
I
a
don't
second.
even know where I was at.
Let me get you back in. You were there talking about kids and kids under 6 are free. All right, so everybody should be back on here. All right, we should have both of you back again.
All right.
Let's try this one more time. So you was talking about kids are under 6 are free, 6 and under?
Yep, all kids under 6 years are free for entry. And like I said, you can listen live to your favorite WVRC media radio station to win tickets to the show. You'll find everything from outdoors, guns, ammo, archery, fishing, hunting, furs, charter boats, African safaris, RVs, outdoor apparel, game sauces and seasonings, sporting clubs, hunting reserves boats, ATV, archery, jerkies, pickles, etc. There's a plethora of things, guys. Also special this year is an indoor trout pond, free for catch and release. You can take a fish home for a small fee, catch a golden trout, and win an IHOP gift card.
Nice.
There'll be live reptiles from the zoology zone, face paintings, kids coloring contests, Smokey the Bear, Outer Rim, Praxium, Lightsaber School, Laurel and Falcon. Laurel will be there for falconry. Featured television shows: The Chase with Ted and Amber, Hunt Chef, Whitetail Frenzy, Bad Outdoors, Josh White's Outdoor Adventure. Concession stands will be open and a couple food trucks, including wild game options. Like I said, come out and join us with over 200 other vendors during the 23rd Annual West Virginia Fishing, Hunting, and Outdoor Sports Show. March the 1st and the 2nd at Milan Park, Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, man, that's going to be a great show. I always love going to
Oh,
that
yeah,
show.
always is. Morgantown's a blast.
Yep, it sure is. And we were just talking right there before we came in. We're trying to get together and do a live podcast at the Green Turtle. So that's still in the works. It's not definite yet, but we'll find out more on that tomorrow. So you'll be seeing it come out if we end up doing that, but we have some guests that we have lined up so far.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I will not be partaking again this year. I've got a thing they call work calls a beckoning again. I'll have to head back to work that weekend.
Yep.
So
you're not getting as long off this year as you did last year?
Well, yeah, actually, last year I started back quite a bit earlier, back in middle of February. So I've had a little bit longer time frame off this year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this evening we have Jason Webb with Capital Advocates LLC out of Charleston, West Virginia for our legislative segment. So be sure to head over to Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts for all past and present episodes.
Yes. Also, guys, don't forget to use podcast tenant checkout with outdoor-pro-shop.com for 10% off your order at checkout.
Can't forget about them.
Not at all. And they got some great products, tons of products.
Oh, yeah, they got all kinds of stuff. They got a great website. All right, so please welcome with me Jason Webb with Capital Advocates LLC. Jason, how you doing, sir?
Hey, good guys. I mean, obviously it's been a kind of a wild start to legislative session, brand new governor. I tell everybody if you like Trump, you're going to love Patrick Morrisey. So West Virginia is blessed in that regard. New cabinet, new people everywhere, just everybody sort of shuffled around, and so
yeah, we're in that transition
period.
Very
busy.
Yeah.
Yep, in that transition period this year with all the new stuff coming in, and you're a busy man every year, but this year has been a little busier than normal, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has, and it's just a lot of elected officials, a lot of new House members, a lot of new state senators. I've gotten to know and meet most of them, and they're all great people. I mean, they're you and I, they're just people, want to see West Virginia do better. And so they're going to come down and put their 2 cents in. So I always admire and appreciate the process for sure.
Right. Now you've been doing this for a while. Turnovers like this, does it seem like it's usually a pretty smooth transition?
It is, but I've had anyone to been able to challenge me on this. I think this is the largest turnover in the state's history. I mean,
kidding. Okay.
Yeah, you've just got so many members of the Board of Public Works, the statewide offices that have all changed. The governor's office has changed. The governor, his cabinet secretaries are mostly changed, and there's a couple of them that he has kept, and they're all great folks. And the people that he's brought on board are really good people. You have a change in Senate leadership. You have a change in all of the Senate presidency. You've got new members of the Senate. You've got change in House leadership. You have a brand new House process of how a bill becomes law.
Yeah.
It's sort of a mini version of what happens in Congress with various subcommittees and marking up bills and those sort of things. And then you have all the brand new, House of Delegate members. So this is the largest, and I'm sure some historian will find some other turnover. But until then, I'll stick to my guns.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So you were part of some committee hearings today, and it's one that a lot of people are talking about as of late. If you don't care, hit on that a little bit.
Yeah. Today, in one of the subcommittees, there was a bill relating to the use of including or adding drones for tracking or locating mortally wounded deer, turkey, boar, bear, those sort of things. And a couple of years ago, they allowed, if you will, the use of a tracking dog. Had to be on a leash, a lead, if you will, and you can call up different people or and utilize the service and kind of help people, find the deer or whatever they've knocked down, and it's just kind of run off. And so that's been pretty successful. There hasn't been a lot of issues that I'm aware of from that. I know that. I testified anecdotally. I mean, this was my own story. It actually was Jackson's story. My son. Some of you guys have tuned in before. Jackson has his own little YouTube channel, and I don't know. I think he's killed 24 deer so far. He's 16 years old. He knocked a monster down last year in West Virginia, and he does pretty good. And we generally will donate most of our venison to the Hunters Helping the Hungry program, which the West Virginia DNR runs. And we actually we had a lease in Kentucky, and I actually just bought a farm over there last year and didn't close on it till mid-September, so we were only able to hunt down there one or two times. But they also have a similar program. And so I got up and testified. I said, look, a couple of years ago, Jackson and I were hunting. It was a youth season. We were wearing orange. We were sitting in the blind, but he actually took his bow. He didn't take a gun, and he wanted to harvest a doe, which, right now you can only shoot a doe in West Virginia during youth season.
Right.
And so a doe came in, late in the evening, and he actually, the doe kind of ducked, and he hit it just a little back, not too far back. I mean, it was a fatal shot, but not the pass through, double lung, smack down, all that stuff that people talk about. So there wasn't any blood, and we were in a CRP field.
Okay.
So we were looking around forever. The field was as tall as Jackson, and if there's blood around, then he can track it like a hound dog, man. He's great at it. But we couldn't find it, and so I texted a DNR officer that I knew that was covered that area and said, "Hey, can Jackson put his drone up real fast and go through the CRP field, see if we can find this doe?" And he said, "No, you can't. It's considered harassment, and you're not allowed to use them." And I was like,
"Oh, wow."
Well, I mean, I get the harassment. I get hunting with a drone, right?
Yeah.
I get that.
Absolutely.
But this is after the fact. This is about, successfully, getting your deer, if you will. And so we walked around the field and, crisscrossed and tried to do a little grid search. And then I actually went and got in my truck and drove around at night. Now I was just running into, just hitting brush everywhere and weeds. But I thought that if I drove over it, I'd feel the truck kind of bounce, and then we could get out and harvest the deer and field dress it, and then take it to Milam's Custom Meats over in Sissonville and get it processed. They're one of the approved processors that participate in the Hunters Helping Hungry program. Well, we couldn't find it, so we went back up the next day, but we didn't get up there till late afternoon. I mean, we couldn't get back up there, so we spent 2 or 3 hours looking for it, couldn't find it. Sure enough, we found the doe in the daylight because there were some crows on it, and it was probably 300 yards to our left, and it was bloated and dead and spoiled, and so there's just nothing you can do with it at that point. I mean, there's nobody wins there. I mean, and for us, it's not about winning as much as it is just giving back to the community, donating the venison. So I explained this. I said, look, if Jackson could have thrown his drone up, he'd have probably found it in 5 minutes. And so I said, yeah. And then last year, Jackson and I were hunting. He had harvested a really nice buck during the youth gun season, because Ohio allows you to shoot a buck, as does Kentucky, during the youth season. So Jackson was hunting in the youth season. He harvested a really nice buck in Ohio, and a week and a day later was the opening day of gun season in West Virginia. And so Jackson, being a sportsman, said, "Hey, Dad, I've already shot one with a gun. I want to take my bow for the opening day of gun season." I said, "Okay, bud, we'll go. We've got a couple blinds spread out around, and let's find the right wind, and we'll go sit in a blind." And we did. We went up that afternoon, and I mean, a monster walked in. I mean, it looked like a deer out of Kansas, and he came in, and it kind of ducked Jackson's arrow, and so he ended up hitting it kind of high shoulder, and it fell down once running out of the field and got back up and stumbled again. I went to the edge of the field, and it does that sort of shiver, that little shake they do, like when they're, towards the end, and they just kind of do that one last dart or dash. And
Yep.
And so we went over to the edge of the field. We didn't find any blood, again, because it was a high sort of muscle shot. We thought maybe he could have penetrated a lung, collapsed it. We were going to find the deer. And we didn't. So we backed out. We went back up. It was cold that night. So we went back up the next day, the next morning. And I did, and Jackson was kind of paralleling me, a 3.6 mile grid search.
Wow.
Now, we've got a lease. It's about 300 acres, and it's amazing how far you can walk without going anywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
So 3.6 miles really only covered because of how rough the terrain is, how many gullies and little hollers and drains and brush and autumn olive. And I mean, you could almost walk by a deer and not see it. And so we probably only covered 80 acres.
It's still a lot.
6 hours and 3.6 miles.
Right.
Just because of the size, just because of the way the terrain is, where you could, I mean, if Jackson got more than 20 feet away from me, I couldn't see. I mean, it's just,
wow.
It's just an old clear cut that's all growed up and gnarly. And so there again, had we had the drone, we could have covered more area and found the deer. Maybe we wouldn't have, but we'd have had a better shot at it, because I could have been in the woods, he could have been in the woods. So they had a hearing on it, and I just got up and told those two stories and said, look, you all can figure out what to do as far as commercial use and, a guide being paid to come in and bring a dog. And they're actually changing the word dog is actually plural. So it's dogs, meaning two or more.
Multiples. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so they're changing it to a single so that you can have, a pack of hounds show up and to have 2 or 3 dogs tracking. So they think it's important to just, to have one. But that's a policy decision. That's not something. I'm just telling you that I got up there to say, hey, whatever y'all want to do on the commercial side, whatever you want to do by these bonded guides that want to come in and do this for, pay a fee for it, which some people don't have these drones. And the ones they're talking about are thermal drones. We don't have a thermal drone. We just have a simple drone. But, so, I mean,
like you said, some of them thermal drones, you're looking at $10,000.
Yeah, so the folks from Long Spur Tracking were actually there, and they got up and answered, some relevant questions and in the use and field questions, and then talked about, that some people would prefer that you utilize a drone over a dog because, with a dog, you're walking along and you're disturbing the area and the territory and kicking other deer, out of the property. And with a drone, you could, come in. And they talked about the thermal and that a deer's temperature is 104. So in the wintertime, you can get about 24 hours. I mean, so, if it's cold out, the deer will actually kind of show a thermal image up to roughly 24 hours. Actually, if it's warm out, the deer will settle with the ground because it's warm and you have less time to find a deer in warmer weather. So that was just interesting, piece of information that Long Spur provided. So, but the bill essentially moved on. It'll go on to the amendment stage, probably either later this week or early next week. and then go to the full committee, probably with a recommendation that it pass, and then it would have to go to the floor and obviously go through the same process, and then go to the Senate, and then go through a similar process, and then if the Senate made any changes to it, they have to go back to the House for concurrence. Now, in the Senate, I know there's some people that have talked about this bill, and there's some support, but I'm not lobbying it. I talked to one of the lead sponsors, Adam Burkhammer and Chuck Horst, and I just told those guys, they're both incredible people. I mean, Chuck's from the Eastern Panhandle, Berkeley County. He's a big Second Amendment guy, and so is Adam. Adam's actually a delegate. Burkhammer is from the Weston area. He's from Lewis County. And
Yeah, I was going to say Lewis.
Yeah, he's just an incredible guy. And so he had some folks approach him and want to run this bill. And so anyway, I just went in to give some support for it. I was already in the East Wing. I was already kind of monitoring some other things that were going on, and I just stepped in to, just tell them, hey, that's why I think it's important that we have this, because it's not about hunting. It's about the recovery of the animal.
It's about being a good sportsman and collecting your harvest, even if it's 2-3 days later or so.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take a break real quick, Jason, and we'll be right back to hear more about this drone recovery bill.
Sounds good.
This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Apparition Scents, an outdoor and sporting goods company based in Dilliner, Pennsylvania. All of their scents developed and hand bottled with strict attention being paid to every detail. Contact them today at 724-998-7646 or check them out at apparitionscents.com. 100% lethal or your money back guaranteed. Get a hold of them today at 724-998-7646 or check them out at apparitionscents.com. All right, guys, we're back with Jason Webb from Capital Advocates LLC, based out of Charleston, West Virginia here. We're talking about drone recovery bill that's was presented today. And Jason, what bill number was that?
So that's a House bill.
House bill,
so it's
okay.
HB, right? It's a simple abbreviation. House HB bill, HB 2043. 2043.
2043. Nice. Before we go on any further with that, Mike, I'd like to do our salute to Valor for this evening.
Hit it.
So tonight we're going to salute Dennis Leonard Jr. out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He was a sergeant in the United States Army. He served from 2000 to 2009, and he was deployed to Ramadi, Iraq from September 03 to September of 04, and he was in Baklava, Iraq from September of 06 to September of 2007. He was awarded a Purple Heart, Army Accommodation Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Joint Material Service Unit Award, Valorous Unit Award, Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, ×2, Army Service Ribbon, Overseas Service Ribbon, and a Combat Action Badge. And he got out in February of 2009. So he did 2 whole years of his career in the military was in Iraq. So it's pretty powerful stuff right there. So he's seen a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of seen the front end of it with the beginnings and later towards the end of it. So he's seen a lot of different things overseas. So we want to thank him for his service.
Yep. Thank you, sir, for your service. We sure appreciate it. God bless you.
Amen. Thank you.
All right, so back to drone recovery. So this is one of the number one things there on the, I guess, agenda, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean that was the only bill on the agenda today related to sort of the outdoor world, if you will, hunting, fishing, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, there's other piece of legislation that's obviously been introduced, and I'll run through some of those here in a minute. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a one for folks to pay attention to. Again, there is a concern that, you could use a drone or a thermal drone for hunting, right? I mean, how do you tell?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, a guy, in a field using it, saying, "Oh, I'm trying to find my deer I shot." But I hope that people won't abuse it. I'm sure there's some people that will. I hope that those people that do abuse it are caught, and I hope that they're held to the highest standard and prosecuted, and they lose their privilege to hunt and fish, because it really is a privilege, and we need to protect it. But
for sure.
I think that for us, or you, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and in the same sense, there's people out there still that don't do the legal hunting. They'll drive around at night in the field and use a spotlight. So you're going to have it, like you said. I think you're going to have it kind of regardless in a way. But I think most people that's doing this newfangled drones, and I think they're kind of more along the good lines of it.
Yeah, I do too. I have a lot of faith, and I also have a lot of faith in the conservation police officers and able to go in and do an investigation and quickly determine if they're retrieving a wounded animal or trying to find their harvest, if you will.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or
Right.
if they're not. So,
do you think with Ohio and Kentucky, right? I think.
Well, there's one in Ohio. I don't know about the surrounding states. I've never looked, but Ohio.
Okay, I know. Yeah, I know Ohio. Do you think that'll have any impact on decision making processes for that?
I do. I mean, obviously, folks on the border counties are somewhat swayed by what's going on, with their next door neighbor. So I think that would be helpful. I think a full explanation of it will also be helpful. And the fact, the Longspur folks were there, they were able to give, good testimony today about how it's used, how it's done, what the process is.
Awesome. Yeah, they're pretty knowledgeable. We've talked to them about it, and like I said, they track in Ohio too, so they've got to use the drones.
Yeah,
cool.
And I believe
alongside with the dogs, and that's like they've told us, that's the perfect pair. You got the drone for thermal, and you see it, and then you can hit the dog on it and get right to it.
Yep. Hey, Mike, let me run through a couple other bills that your listeners, I think, will appreciate.
Yes.
I had alluded to it earlier. That in the state of West Virginia, if you take a youth hunting, you're not allowed to shoot a buck in youth season, and there is a bill to allow that. It doesn't mean that's going to pass. It doesn't mean it's even going to make it on get a committee hearing. But the fact that people are actually talking about it now, I greatly appreciate that, especially having a teenager that's been hunting most of his life, if you will, but the fact that he can go to Kentucky and kill a buck during youth season, it doesn't seem to bother anybody there or mess with the numbers. The fact that he's been to Ohio and actually harvested bucks during youth season, again, doesn't seem to affect the folks in Ohio or the biology numbers or whatever they want to call it. But here in West Virginia, people get a little wrangled that some kid's going to go out there and shoot, quote, their buck. And I've heard it before. It drives me nuts.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's a bill that's up. There's a couple of bills about baiting, just that you can bait anything for anywhere, anyhow. If you want to bait for bear, you can. If you want to bait for anything, you can. If you want to bait for deer in all counties, you can.
Wow.
Obviously, in the Eastern Panhandle, where there's chronic wasting disease, as someone who is a semi-expert on chronic wasting disease, so kind of a national expert and tracks that across the country, I'll tell you that unfortunately baiting does congregate deer, and deer that have chronic wasting disease actually shed prions exponentially greater, 10,000, 100,000 times greater in saliva and mucus.
Yes.
And so because of that, then that gets on the corn pile or the mineral, whatever it may be. And unfortunately, a healthy deer could consume that, and that consumption, and this is just my opinion, but that consumption could lead to the spread of chronic wasting disease into a healthy deer that would come in contact with a deer. I'll tell you this 1,000 times. Deer urine and deer feces isn't spreading chronic wasting disease. No deer's eating feces or drinking deer urine
Yes, we have talked about that in past episodes.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, I always say you guys are looking at the wrong end of the deer if you're worried about deer. You've already missed it.
Well,
you're looking at the front end of the deer.
I think that with some of these other states that have brought in baiting and legalized it, I think they've seen and found that the uptick in CWD has increased.
Well, it's a congregation for sure. And so if you, in the Eastern Panhandle, there are several counties over there where you're not allowed to bait because they don't want to congregate the deer, because if you take a deer that it has chronic wasting disease, which is a fatal disease, and so at the late stages of that deer's life, it begins to shed more prions because they're higher concentrated, which is just a malformed or misformed protein, but it can be found in saliva and in nasal mucus. And so because it's like 100,000 times greater versus, say, urine, which is sort of faint. And I mean, there was a study done by Dr. Henderson out of the Colorado State Prion Research Center where, it took like a liter or more of a deer to consume a highly concentrated bottle of deer urine from the late stages of a fatal, a dying deer, where it was, gathered from, and then it was, given to a healthy deer. That just doesn't happen naturally. So, but there's a lot of bait piles that people use to hunt over bear. I mean, they hunt bear over bait piles, and you can go to Maine and Canada, you can go all these other places and do it. But, you can't do it here. And that's again, I'm just providing the information.
That's one thing that we haven't discussed. Is CWD found in other animals than deer?
Well, I think that they're mainly found in, mule deer, elk, in what's called cervids.
So just
deer. So I don't know about, I don't know if it's found in bear. Like, I've never run across a story where they've got a bear that has CWD. I don't recall ever seeing it. So I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I would say not, but I don't know for sure either. That's something interesting we need to look into, I guess.
Yeah, and then I'll tell you. Oh, go ahead.
It cannot be found in bears.
Okay.
Like you said, it's deer, elk, moose, and reindeer.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and with deer, they're talking about mule deer, blacktail, whitetail. It's the whole
coos and all the sorts.
We have got to keep that away from Rudolph.
He's got to lead that sleigh.
I mean, Christmas is in dire need here, boys.
Yeah, you won't be getting your packages on Christmas if it's foggy. Rudolph gets the CWD.
No, God, we need to keep. Please
that's
don't.
Be your excuse for not getting presents. Rudolph got CWD.
That's right.
Oh Lord.
So two more sort of subject matters, and then I'll open it up to questions or whatever. But two more. One is, we always hear this where we've seen these bills before, and you'll hear me repeat this.
Just so everybody knows, Dave is monitoring the comments. So if you'd like to comment on our Facebook Live that's going on right now about any of these issues, he's commenting there.
Cool. And again, I'm not advocating for any of these piece of legislation. I'm just providing sort of an update to the folks on the limb. I did testify in support of the drone, and I gave you the reason why I felt like we could have recovered absolutely the doe.
Yeah.
Maybe the buck. I don't know, but absolutely the doe. The two other sort of areas of legislations, or pieces of legislation that's being introduced. One relates to giving people either a tax credit or a discount or a break or even free hunting and fishing licenses, right? If you're handicapped, if you're a veteran, if you're a wounded soldier, whatever it may be. I will always tell you that if you're going to do something, give them either a tax break or give them a price break, but do not give anybody in the state a free license.
Right. Yep, I remember talking about that.
Yep, charge them at least $1. Like you can decide however much you want to charge them, but because of the Pittman Act, then the Pittman Act is federal dollars available for the state.
Yep.
That we're able to draw down and matching. So if we put up so much, the feds will put up so much. But the formula is simply based on the number of paid hunting licenses in each state. So you have to pay something for it. So if you gave away a bunch of free licenses, and I'm not saying those people don't deserve it. Some gave some gave all.
Right.
I mean, you guys just did the salute to value. That's one of the things that, you guys always do. So I appreciate that. I know your listeners appreciate that. But if you're going to give them a discount, either give them a tax credit or give them a price break so that they're paying something. So that is considered, quote, a paid license to help draw down those federal dollars.
Yeah.
Because once you eliminate so many groups, it reduces the overall amount of money. And we all pay that. We all pay a surcharge on guns and ammunition and other stuff that goes into this fund, and then because of that, we're able to draw it down and then spend it specifically on hunting and management and other stuff here in West Virginia. So you'll see that, and then
or
they
could put it in there as a line item that's not noticed. Like this came out here recently with Doge, $5 trillion or $1 million that's been put in on a line item that was not even recognized. It's just out there for people to build stuff to.
Right.
4.31 trillion. I mean,
I'm like,
or some number.
Are you kidding me?
Well, that's like that. Well, just like that Social Security. There's one person over the age of 395 years old still getting Social Security.
Yep, I saw that.
I mean, come on.
Sorry, Jason, I didn't mean to get off track there. But
listen, I see it. I see it a lot now, obviously, because we're in session and legislators are sharing it on social media.
No, I mean, we want to make sure our dollars are going to what they say it's going for. I mean. And
we
want to
Social Security and helping as a safety net to seniors late in their life when they're not able to work anymore.
Yes,
absolutely. Or Medicare, whatever it is, but we don't want it wasted because it's precious. These are hard-earned dollars by every one of us on the podcast, and all of your listeners. Those are hard-earned dollars, and just like you would go to the store and not really waste it, we don't want them to go to Congress and waste it. So you're absolutely right.
So like you're talking about that the bill there or the act, and I mean we definitely want to keep that going. We definitely want to keep that, the funds going into that Pittman Act.
Well, and the ability to draw it down. So you have to have a paid license in order to draw it down because that's what the formula is based on. So as your licenses go down, license sales go down for disinterest, or people get old and they don't buy their license anymore, or their kids grow up and move out of state and they don't have a hunting buddy or someone to pal around with. Because you and I, we talk about this all the time. Hunting ain't about killing for me. We can all go out and kill all kinds of deer if we wanted to. I mean, hunting is about the journey. It's about what you're learning. It's about the time you're spent. It's about, finding the gospel in the trees at times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much more than what happens at the end. It's the journey.
Sure.
So, but we've got to make sure that we're encouraging people to get outdoors, whether you're using a pedal kayak in Arizona in 80-degree weather that no one cares about. Because it's
that's a lie. You care about it. You're talking about it.
Or if you're, wanting to go trout fishing just as soon as the freeze sort of falls, or if we're getting ready to talk about, spring gobbler. We just got back from boar hunting. We were boar hunting down in Logan. We actually saw a really big sow, but she had 3 piglets, and we weren't gonna harvest her.
Oh.
And then we saw a little boar, and we just kind of passed on him. We could have made a move on him, but we didn't.
The little piggy.
But we still had a great experience. But So whatever it is, whatever your passion is for the outdoors, we want to encourage you. But through hunting licenses being sold, as those go down, therefore our federal match goes down.
Yeah.
And so we need to kind of sustain the sport.
Yep.
We need to try to encourage others to get involved in the sport. But we also have to, again, help people out that need it. But even if you're just charging them $1, so that's considered a paid license, we need to support that.
Yep, for sure.
I'll talk about one more sort of item, and then we can kind of open it up. But this other item is essentially, it's called an open fields doctrine, just like an open field. And the open field doctrine is essentially under the Fourth Amendment, which protects you from illegal search and seizures.
Oh, nice.
The courts have found essentially that open fields, woods don't apply. So there's a concern that the federal government, state agencies, and monitor what you do in your open fields, your woods, your property. That's the areas outside of your home. Once you kind of leave your home and you're on your property, then the Fourth Amendment no longer applies. You don't have to have a subpoena. You don't have to, go get a court order. If you want to do surveillance, you can do surveillance. And this came about because a guy discovered somewhere, I'm going to say Louisiana, but it seems like it was a southern state. And he went onto his property one day and found a bunch of cell cameras or game cameras. And, they don't belong to him, and it's his property. And so he cut them down.
Oh.
And I guess Fish and Game or whatever it's called in that state said, hey, man, you're messing with state property. We're on here. We have notion to believe something illegal was going on here, and we're allowed to come onto your property. And he sort of fought them, and they said, no, open doctrine says outside your home. So now there's legislators that want to close that. Now, I don't believe anybody here in West Virginia is abusing that. I think that, and if let's just say hypothetically it's DNR. If DNR is going in, they're going in because they have a really good suspicion or a really good probable cause that there's some illegal activity that's probably been reported to them by a neighbor or whatever it may be, illegal dumping site, right, for trash or whatever it may be. Remember how they used to have, and I know I grew up in Boone County, and you get down to Logan and other places, and you see a sign that says under surveillance, and you're being watched, and we always thought that there was a camera somewhere on some of these dump sites to keep people from throwing refrigerators and old washer and dryers over the side of a hill.
Yeah.
And so with good reason and good cause, I think if there is any type of surveillance going on or someone's trying to find something through an investigation, I don't think anybody's doing anything wrong, but it does raise concern from legislators and, citizens of the state to say, hey, I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't think that's fair. Maybe that's not right. Maybe we do need to protect it. And so
Sure.
you'll see some of these open field doctrine type bills that are being introduced and talked about.
I think that's something to be discussed for sure for more.
Yeah.
I mean, in further detail.
Yeah. See how, especially after we see how it goes too, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a quick rundown on some of the piece of legislation that's been introduced so far. We are not very far into session. We are essentially just about a week really in. We started a week. A month later, we suspended. We went in on the second Wednesday of January, and then suspended for 30 days and came back on the 12th. So we're just now really getting into our second full week, if you will. So, but I'm stressing all these bills that I talked about. Some of them will go absolutely nowhere. Some may be discussed. Some may be rolled over into a legislative interim meeting, which means they'll discuss it between the joint and the Senate, a joint committee, sometime this summer to kind of delve down into some of the details. The one bill that I would expect to have a little bit of legs and move is probably this drone recovery bill. And I would obviously welcome it, and I'll continue to encourage people. And of course, if listeners feel the same way, then they could contact their respective senator and delegate and talk about that bill number and, see where it goes.
Nice. All right, Jason. Well, we sure appreciate you coming on this evening.
As always.
Absolutely.
Real quick.
Appreciate the invite.
Real quick before we go, with you being from Boone County, I got to ask you, have you ever had an encounter with the Boone County Bandit?
If he hasn't, I have.
Well, I mean, you talking about the Boone County Ninja?
Boone County Ninja, that's what he's talking about.
The Ninja.
Hey, I'm just telling you, don't be trying this on your kids or your dogs. Right?
That's right. Oh, Lord.
Oh, that's great. It's always a pleasure having you on, Jason. We sure appreciate your knowledge.
I appreciate the opportunity, guys. Listen, if I can help you, I'm a call or text away. God bless, and appreciate you guys, and stay safe with this weather it moves in.
Yep, you too.
You guys too.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, you all.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
one. All right, guys, thanks for listening this evening. Thanks for watching the live. We'll have the links and everything we talked about this evening in our description once the episode airs. Folks, remember, at checkout, naturesvoicegamecalls.com, use podcast 15 at checkout for 15% off your entire order. Be sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Longspur Tracking and Outfitting. Longspur has 28 trackers covering 9 states: West Virginia, Ohio, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Illinois, and Iowa. Check them out for all your tracking needs on their Facebook page or visit them at www.whitetaildeertracking.com. Or contact them today at 304-439-1659. Longspur Tracking and Outfitting, www.whitetaildeertracking.com or 304-439-1659. Contact them today.